act to follow. And then like the 20th person are the same things. You hear them over and over. And that's not the point. I mean, the point is you hear what you need to hear. So hopefully, over the next 20 minutes or 20 years, as it's going to feel for me, we can say what you need to hear and cover a few things. I had a pretty interesting week, and it was a very awakening week for me. And just kind of on one shoulder I was thinking, oh, what am I going to talk about at the beginning? Should I make a PowerPoint? What song should I come into? Like, all these things are running around in my head. And then I got an email from a woman. And actually my buddy got the email because she emailed him somehow, or she emailed his office. And I practiced in his office as well, so she must have figured it out that way. But the email basically said to her, hey, or said to me, hey, Dr. Dickert, I got your name from so-and-so. I was at my OBGYN's office, and my midwife recommended you. My baby's in a breech position. I don't know her midwife. I've never heard of her OBGYN. I have no clue how she got my email. But I'm like, great. See you on Sunday. Unless it snows, I'll see you on Tuesday. And then it snowed. And it snowed, and snowed, and snowed. So Tuesday comes around, and I've done the ICTA seminars. I've done the Webster Technique. We learned it in school. I did the seminar on it. That being said, I see pregnant women. It's not the focus of my practice. But from time to time, one will come in, or a practice member or a patient will get pregnant, and it's great, because everyone enjoys pregnancy more if they're getting adjusted. But this woman came in, and she's the first pregnant patient I've had who had a breech baby. And she's saying, like, oh, I've been doing this, I've been doing these exercises, and I'm like, sounds great, come. And I don't have very fancy tables, but I have one table that has the pelvic piece lifts up so that a pregnant woman can lay on it. And usually I joke with them about how that's like the most exciting thing to them, because it's 9 months since they've been able to lay on their belly, and they like that. So long story short, we go through the Webster Technique, my adjuster, and I'm like, and I'm feeling it. Like, I don't know why, but it's just like, it's flowing through me, and like, I'm sensing little changes in her body, and I'm maintaining this contact, and I can see her pelvis shifting, and just like, in me, I'm just like, oh, this baby's flipping. Like, I just know it. And I'm sure that this confidence that has just come out of nowhere from this woman who found me out of nowhere, and I say to her, and I explain to her, I'm like, it's not what I'm doing, the technique makes space, and then the baby's naturally going to flip over. This is what the baby wants to do. There's just something restricting the baby. Same story, your body wants to be healthy, there's something restricting the health. This baby wants to dive out. It doesn't want a cannonball. And so I send her on her way, and I'm just like, all right, have a good one, I'll see you on Thursday. And she texts me later in the day, because she went back to her medical doctor, or her midwife, and the baby flipped over. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm 100% with using this technique. And it worked. And it always works, and it's chiropractic, so it always works. And it's not me, I didn't flip the baby, and I explained that to her in detail. But then I got to thinking how cool that could be for the baby's life. This woman's in 37 weeks of pregnancy, and in the next couple weeks, this baby's coming out. And if this baby comes out naturally, well, then that's a huge leg up. We all know that a natural birth is ideal compared to a C-section. So that right off the bat, this baby has a whole different life ahead of it, different options. I'm not going to say anything couldn't be better. If it needs to be a C-section, it needs to be a C-section. There's still things to do. That baby can still turn out to be the next president, or the next pope, or the next whatever she or he wants to be. But it's really cool, and it got me thinking about this whole you never know how one small thing, this thing, how far-reaching the small thing that you do today can be tomorrow. And that got me thinking about something else that I've been thinking about recently, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, this is the year I'm going to start blogging, because I should be a blogger. It'll be a good way to get out in the community, and people will find me, and I'll write books, and I'll be, able to touch more people's lives. And one of the things I was thinking about the other day, because I was reading this other blog that I like, and they were talking all about electric cars. And electric batteries are really huge, and in the next couple of years, as batteries become cheaper and cheaper and more prolific, we're going to start seeing, everything's going to be starting to run off electricity, which is much cleaner, much less impactful, and in many ways much better for us. So flashback a couple years. I went to college in the year 2001. So this is the 25th anniversary of New Beginnings. I was 8 the first time y'all got together. So in 2001, I pack up and I go off to college on Long Island. And at the time, much like today, what you would do to socialize is you would go out to different drinking establishments. And you would drink and be merry and have fun. But there was something different in 2001. In 2001, people were allowed to smoke cigarettes inside. Does everyone remember when you were allowed to smoke cigarettes inside? So you would go to the bar, and you would drink, and be merry, and you would meet people, and you'd make friends, and you'd try to be cool, and at the end of the night, you'd go home, and whether you smoked or not, you smelled like cigarettes. And whether you smoked or not, you had holes in your clothes from bumping into people who were smoking cigarettes. And then one day, something changed. It started very slowly, but eventually cities and towns and even countries said, no, we're not smoking inside anymore. It's just not allowed. You're welcome to smoke. You have to go outside. And those of us that smoked at the time were like, grumble, 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 but I get to go out and look at the stars, so it's not that bad. And you still got to talk, you still got to be merry, you still got to get drunk. But something was different, because for those of us that didn't smoke, you could go out to the bar, you could drink, you could have a good time, you could try to be cool, you could try to make friends, you could try to pick up people. But the next morning when you woke up, you wouldn't smell like smoke. And you wouldn't be coughing, and you wouldn't have holes in your clothes. And the thing that never occurred to me before this was that there was a way to go to the bar, have drinks, have fun, meet people, try to take them home, do whatever, and not smell like a smoker. And it was like life-changing to me. So I'm walking down the street the other day, looking at all the snow. And the snow's brown and yellow and black and sooty. And it occurs to me, well, what's it going to smell like when the cars are all electric? What's it going to smell like outside when there's not smog and pollution? And that's such a radical idea, because that's what we built our society on. Everything is run from a combustion engine. Everything produces waste, and that's just part of life. None of us know a world where we go outside and it doesn't smell like car exhaust. We don't even smell it. I can't tell you what it smells like, but I know it's there. But it never occurred to me. In China, if one of us went to China and they have a smog alert and you can't go outside because it's as thick as fog, you'd notice right away. Just like if I go to San Diego for the week to visit my aunt and uncle in La Jolla and spend the week on the beach, I realize all of a sudden New York kind of smells bad. I'm coughing up. I live in Brooklyn, by the way. So it's not China, but I get my fair share of pollution. So it occurred to me, like, what don't we realize is going to be so different? And you can also extrapolate that to other things. And it can be, one of the themes of the weekend has been Star Wars. I'm somewhat versed in Star Wars. But for those of you who are not versed in it, there's a dark side and there's a light side. And if the dark side wins, then bad things are going to happen. If the light side wins, presumably good things are going to happen. We all know, as spiritually evolved people, that there has to be some balance of both sides. But what would the world be like if we weren't all on medications? Most people don't know a world without medication. Most people are on 5 medications. How many people come in that are on multiple ones? I almost have to high-five patients when they're not taking a medication. And they don't get it. They don't realize that that's like an amazing thing, because most people assume if they're not on a medication, it's just a matter of time until they get on a medication. So the alternative to that, the dark side to that, would be, what's the world going to be like when no one knows about chiropractic? Or what's the world going to be like when everyone just thinks that chiropractic is about back pain? One of the things that happens in Star Wars, repeatedly, as they like to reuse themes, is that the good guys get whittled down to a small force, and there's overwhelming odds, and then there's one big event where they figure out how to make a devastating blow to the bad guys. And that presumably means the light side is going to win, and everything's going to come around. But it doesn't really happen like that in the real world. In the real world, we make small changes over time. And change has been another big theme of the weekend that I've seen. And one of the things that's been repeating for me recently, and that's kind of how my experience with the universe works, and I imagine it goes the same way for a bunch of other people, but when the universe has something to teach me, or a little game to play with me, it'll just pop up little things over and over. And you'll see a quote somewhere that you hadn't heard before, and then later that day it'll come up on a podcast, and then later that day it'll pop up on someone's t-shirt or a bumper sticker. It just keeps coming around until I finally go, okay, what are you trying to tell me? Like, let's look into this. So maybe it's a quote by Camus, and you just have to keep reading this quote, and it just keeps coming up. So you think, maybe I need to read a book, maybe I need to go to France, maybe I need to study some different things. And one of the things that keeps popping up for me repeatedly is the idea that if you change one thing, you change everything. And I think that that's a really freeing idea and a really amazing principle and really a great way to go into life. If you don't like what you have, change something. You can change one thing, and presumably that can start a domino effect where you change everything. And I think that that can go really well in our lives and in our practices and in chiropractic and in the world at large. But I think that there's an important caveat to that as well, and that would be that you have to have a strong foundation and a strong principle. You can't just change everything, and you don't want to. And you don't want to just be building your house on sand. You want a strong foundation. So we have this beautiful foundation, like everyone has talked about this weekend, this perfect chiropractic idea, and this perfect chiropractic philosophy, this perfect approach to life. And like other speakers have said, you can apply it to your life, you can apply it to anything that you want, and really get cool results from it. And I think it's great upon great because it makes this perfect thing that we have to work with, and we're all imperfect, which is where a lot of the distortions and the shortcomings and the flaws come in. So we have to change things about ourselves to be more of a reflection of chiropractic, because chiropractic's perfect. We need to figure out how to make ourselves more perfect. And one of the ways to do that is by changing, and by listening to your innate, and by figuring out ways to grow. And much like water or anything else in nature, it doesn't have to be a straight line. There's very few straight lines in life, but we have a lot of this changing and this shifting. So I got an idea, another backstory. So I read a book, and books always get me into trouble because they give me ideas, and then I get excited, and then I sign up for 50-mile races. So in May, I'm scheduled to run 50 miles. Now, before this day, the longest I've ever run is like 13 miles, and that was a week or two ago. And the longest before that was a half marathon that I did last summer. So I'm qualified. I got this. I know I can do 13 miles, why can't I just do it 4 times? It seems simple, right? But the idea is changing and growing, I don't need to change chiropractic, but I need to change myself and find ways to be better and be a better representation of chiropractic. And this book that I read that got me into all this trouble was a book called Born to Run. And it's a very cool book, and I recommend everyone read it and then go sign up for races and we can run together. But it's a very cool book because it looks at like human bodies and human evolution and the idea of like, well, are we made to do something? Is this specifically what we're supposed to do? Is this our advantage? Because like, I don't know about you, but I look at a tiger and I see what its advantages are. Teeth, claws, you can't see them, they're fast, and they're hungry. So like, that thing is prepared to kill me and eat me. I look at a porcupine, I see its advantage. It hurts if you touch it, so nobody wants to touch it. And then I see humans, and we're like funny looking things, and we walk around with our bellies, and we have these big heads, and we don't have wings or talons or like retractable claws. And one of the things it posits in the book is like, oh, well, maybe we're persistent. Maybe our advantage over the advantage of other animals, thank you, is that we can run incredibly long distances. And our bodies have all these neat built-in cooling mechanisms that allow us to run long distances. So why, when there were stronger humans these other genetic kind of dead ends, as we call them, that really we just blended back in with them. But why, when there's big, strong, Homo or different, I don't remember their names, but yeah, Neanderthals. So why, when these big, strong, powerful things that you can look at them and see their muscles and you know that like they're the dominant ones, why, when these skinny little nerdy humans that are running around and having a grand old time, why do we live? Why do we be the main flow of human evolution? And the idea that it suggests in the book is that we're persistent and we're able to run long distances, so we can walk around all day, we'll eat nuts and berries, and oh my God, there's an antelope, let's chase it until its heart explodes. And basically, this is this great advantage we have. Our heart doesn't explode from life, so we can chase things until theirs do. But this was lost, and this isn't how people hunt. Anyone here who hunts usually uses a bow or an arrow or a gun or things like that, because we're also very smart, and we come up with ways to get around it. So none of us have to go outside and run 15 miles to eat tonight, but you can. But in the process, we've lost something, because we've forgotten that this is what we were made for, this is what we're supposed to do. So the thing to do is try and figure out what we're missing or what we've lost along the way, and ways to get back to it. And chiropractic's a great example of that. Every time I get lost, because I'm just going to wrap it up, because I could go on for several more hours talking about it. But every time I get lost, I just come back to why. What's chiropractic got to teach me? What am I missing? What do I need to pick up? And what are we made for? And chiropractic is very in tune with expressing why we're here, expressing this innate force, this our reason, our raison d'etre, our reason to be, And chiropractic is so in tune with that, and that's what I love, and that's what I love to express to people. So what I would say is kind of the take-home is, to me, chiropractic is about freedom. So many things in society, so many things in our lives cage us in. Debt, jobs where we sit in cubicles all day, all these crazy things that people do that make them just lose their mind. And there's a quote by Camus that I really like, and the quote is something to the effect of, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to be so radically free that your very existence is an act of defiance. And I see chiropractic as being about freedom. It frees us up to do what we're meant to do, to be what we're meant to be, and to escape so many of the chains that people impose on themselves. So just remember, you just have to change one thing, you can change everything. And yeah, it's been an amazing weekend. Thank you to the board, thank you to Jim, Bat, and everyone for having me up here. It's really amazing and very humbling to be on the stage with so many great people. Thank you.
Dickert.